They stopped listening to me again, looking all over. Wow, 2 eyes. 2 legs, 2 arms. Just like us. And I want to tell you that everything that Ezekiel spoke of in Ezekiel 36 and Ezekiel 37 has been fulfilled. Everything. Speaking of the preparation of the land for the return of the Jews, then the rescue of the remnant from the ovens of the Holocaust, and then, of course, the physical transferring of the people from the diaspora back to their own land. This has already been fulfilled in the last 60, 70 years of our lifetime. We see more things fulfilled than any other generation since the time of Jesus Christ. Now, that's why I say we live in the days of Ezekiel, and now comes the point when Israel is a country that is safe, secured, and prosperous. Now you tell me, wait a minute, I heard you're not safe. Really? When was the last time you were there? And the last time you were there, when was it that you felt unsafe? I can send my son or my daughter to play out without any fear that they will be kidnapped. I can't do that in America. I want to tell you something. It's safe. In fact, Israel has never been safer. Well, you're probably going to say, so why are you crying that you're in danger of extermination? We are. We are. There is a country that is vowing to destroy us, and they're developing nuclear weapon, and they're seriously going to act upon it. We are. But we are strong. We're not afraid. And we are going to do something about it. Guess what? We're not going to stay and wait for them to do something. So the country is safe, secured, and prosperous, just like Ezekiel in his 38th chapter started talking about. So we are in the days of the first verses of Ezekiel 38. We are in the days that Ezekiel 38 is coming to pass before our very eyes. We are in the days where we see 2 things. And I want you, as believers, you must understand, you must identify 2 things that are going on in the world right now. One is the isolation of Israel, the political isolation of Israel. Look, the Iran deal was actually putting Israel aside. In fact, now Israel is to be blamed for anything that is going to happen in the future because we already negotiated and closed a deal with Iran. Iran is now the good guys. Now Israel is going to be the problem. The international court is taking us every day to try us for something. The Security Council every day is condemning Israel for something. Just name it. The Human Rights Council is trying. There's atrocities done all over the world, but Israel is always the one to be blamed for it. I want to tell you that Israel is now being separated and isolated. I want to tell you that anti-Semitism is on the rise like never before. Jews all throughout the world are being attacked in their synagogues, on the streets, in their shopping, while they do shopping, while they visit the graveyard, while they do bar mitzvahs, they are attacked, they are massacred, and the world keeps silent. But if one Palestinian boy will be killed, the world will have it on the headlines. There's a country that is vowing to destroy Israel, and the world sits and having a deal with it without asking them at least to take these words back. In fact, the Newsweek magazine last year showed this. Why Europe's Jews are fleeing out again, once again. Exodus. The Jews are leaving Europe. They can't take it anymore. So you see that the isolation of the Jews is on the rise. You see that the condemnation of Israel, that the isolation of Israel is on the rise. And the other thing you need to keep your eyes on is what's going on in Damascus. You see 2 things. Look at the political isolation of Israel and look at the city of Damascus, and you will understand why. And so, Ezekiel in chapter 38, which I believe we live in these days, is describing not only that Israel is safe, not only that it's secured, not only that it has unwalled villages and towns, not only that he who will come to attack us is actually going to try to plunder, to steal, to take, because we have something that they want. But Ezekiel describes the exact names of these countries. Ezekiel speaks of Gog from the land of Magog. Isn't that interesting? In Arabic, in the ancient Arabic language, the China wall is called the wall of Magog. Did you know that? They literally identified the China wall against Russia as the wall of Magog. Russia was Magog for them. Rosh is Russia. And they speak of the fact that Russia is going to lead a massive attack, not alone. The Bible says that Iran, which is Persia in the Bible, is going to join them. Now, Iran is not called Iran in the Bible, it's called Persia. Iran is a relatively modern name. Persia is the ancient biblical name. In fact, that's their heritage. They're Persians. They speak Farsi. They don't speak Iranian. And so Iran is there, and guess why Iran will join? You see, when you make a deal with Iran, let me tell you how they think. Because the Western world has no clue how the people of Iran, the leaders of Iran, how they think. They don't understand that. They really think that if you sign a treaty with them, they will honor that. Let me tell you what they think. Okay, when the world says that this agreement will stop you from having nuclear weapons for the next 10 years, and after 10 years everything will be okay, for them is, thank you, we'll have it tomorrow. See, they got the green light. You think it's 10 years. They know it's now. They know that in 10 years it's going to be too late. If there is a time to act upon it, it's now. Now we have enough uranium. Now we have enough plutonium. Now we have all the things we need. Who knows what's going to happen in 10 years? Now, you must understand, according to the deal, they get to keep almost 5,000 centrifuges. They get to keep all the facilities that they have. And if you want to visit their facility, you must ask permission, and they have the right to tell you, come back in 24 days. So they have 24 days to prepare themselves, to eliminate all traces of anything they do. And then when you ask for a sample of the soil to see if there's any radioactive traces, the agreement says that they will provide the sample. Wow. How cute. Think about it. They will provide the sample. Sure. And if you have a problem with that, then you need to appeal, and it takes months. But guess what is not taking months? The lifting up of the sanctions. That takes effect immediately. And they are going to make billions of dollars, and even the President of the United States admitted that they are going to use it for terrorism. Hey, how great is it? You're signing a deal, providing billions of dollars to a country that you know is going to use it for terrorism. Wow, so brilliant. You know, yesterday I read the headline, the news. John Kerry says that when Iran says death to America, they don't really mean to destroy America. You know, when you teach the word denial, take that headline and put it there in your teaching. That's to live in denial. Folks, they want America's dead, they want Israel dead, and they are going to do whatever it takes to do it. You better get your head out of the sand. And why would Iran join Russia? Why? Two possibilities. And both of them are related to Damascus. Remember, a couple of years ago, when Damascus was almost attacked by the whole Western world to try to stop the civil war. Remember, after that horrible chemical attack of the troops of Assad on the people. You know, remember who were the two countries that are standing against it, so against the Western intervention? Russia and Iran. So I believe that if something is going to happen to Damascus, that will bring Russia and Iran all the way together. Now, Iran is mentioned, Russia is mentioned. Russia is Rosh, Meshech, and Tuval. Russia is not interested in anything of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict or the jihadist or the Sunni Shiite conflict. They could care less about the Middle East. All they want is gas and oil. That's what they want. And they are actually not even hiding it. They're saying, we're interested in a stake of the gas that is in the Mediterranean. We want to be the number one empire that is dealing with gas in the world. And so we want that gas that Israel just found 3-4 years ago. Trillions of cubic feet of natural gas we found. That brought us to become one of the superpowers of world energy without even knowing. Overnight. And the Russians are so angry, and the Russians want it. And President Putin landed in Israel a couple years ago and met with Netanyahu and wanted to deal a deal about that. And Netanyahu told him, "Das svidaniya." Au revoir. No. We're not going to make business with you, but that's our gas. Period. And then the Bible says not only that Rosh and Meshech and Tuval and Persia, the Bible says, and even Ethiopia will join them. Ethiopia of that time is Sudan of today. And guess what? The Sudanese can't wait to come against Israel even right now because Israel in the past 4 years struck Sudan at least 5 times. Most of you never heard of it, trust me. When we strike, we don't talk. Somebody once said, when you want to shoot, shoot, don't talk. And I want to tell you, the reason why we strike there is because we identified smugglings of weapons from Iran through Sudan. Knowing that this weapon will end up in Sinai and all the way to Gaza, fired at us, we wanted to destroy it already there. And then our intelligence found out that the Iranians built in Khartoum, the capital of Sudan, a whole plant to manufacture their own rockets there so they don't have to ship it anymore. And so we destroyed that plant as well. And guess who we heard when we tapped? We only heard North Korean scientists and Iranians talking. No Sudanese were even there. In the heart of the capital of Sudan, it was an Iranian enclave preparing weapons. And so Sudan will come against us. They just wait for the signal. One of our biggest allies in the Middle East is Turkey. And Turkey, that used to be very good friend of Israel, about 8 years ago, voted for Erdogan, who is a leader of a radical Islamic party, and everything shifted, and now Turkey poses to be one of our biggest enemies, and Turkey is just literally asking for trouble and waiting to join any coalition that somehow will bring an end to the Zionist Israeli entity, and that is Gomer and the house of Togarmah. So it's interesting. I just mentioned to you all the countries that Ezekiel 38 speaks about coming to attack Israel. Interesting. All of them are now ready. All of them have all the excuse. All of them are honing their swords. And the only thing that they're waiting for is what? Is the match that will set the fire. And I always said, I've said it before, and you know I'm not a prophet. I come from a non-profit organization. I'm just quoting scriptures. And the way I see the destruction of Damascus will be the match that lights and sets the fire that will cause them to come up against us. That is the only thing that I've ever seen in the history that brings together Iran, Russia, Turkey, and Sudan, even in the last 2 years. Now, Ezekiel does not stop there. Ezekiel mentions Sheba and Dedan. These are the names of Saudi Arabia, today. Sheba and Dedan. And then he says that Sheba and Dedan are actually criticizing the attack on Israel. Interesting. Saudi Arabia, you would think that they hate us. No. They became good friends of us lately. In fact, Prince Walid ibn Talal, one of the wealthiest people in the world, is coming to visit Israel shortly. And he announced that publicly. It is unprecedented. And the reason is, both of us, both Israel and Saudi Arabia, understand the Iranian threat with nuclear weapons in their hand. And so, from being once an enemy of Israel, now it is the country that is criticizing the attack on Israel. And then the other two ones that criticize but they really don't do anything is the merchants of Tarshish. If you read in Ezekiel, merchants of Tarshish is a name, a code name for Europe. Tarshish is where Spain is today, and it is representing the entire Western Europe, the European Union. And then it comes and says, and the young lions of Tarshish, that which came out of the loins of Europe, or Western Europe, which I believe is a code name for the United States of America. All of them will also criticize it. Which means that we have Russia, Iran, Turkey, Sudan, all of them attacking Israel. And by the way, watch this. It's representing Europe, Asia, and Africa coming against Israel. Think about it. It will be considered a world war. Now, a world war doesn't mean that all the world is fighting. Even World War I and World War II did not include all the world. Still, it was called World War because it covered, or it consisted of countries from different parts of the world. Interesting enough, World War II was about to destroy, if you really think about the Holocaust, to destroy the Jews as a nation, as a race. And World War III will be about destroying Israel as a political entity. Look how much effort Satan is putting in trying to get rid of us. He's really trying hard. We're too stubborn. So we have Europe, and we have America, and now comes Syria, Damascus. You see, Isaiah says, the burden against Damascus, behold, Damascus will cease from being a city, it will be a ruinous heap. I will ask the multimedia